This is how we're going to do it. Thank you, Colonel, for that introduction. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My talk today is going to be about 5 memorable days about the Korean War and the monument which we're now building. Please follow me through these 5 days. The first memorable day is October 8, 1945, when the cruiser number 38 with the name USS San Francisco put in at Incheon Harbor in Korea. It played a part in making the agreement which eventually led to the 38th parallel. The partition of Korea at the 38th parallel gave the Soviet Union, North Korea, and a communist government, while the United States provided leadership in forming a democratic government in South Korea. Years passed. Suddenly, on June 25, 1950, in a sneak attack by 135,000 North Korean troops, trained and equipped by the Soviets, they crossed the 38th parallel, launching an all-out offensive against a much smaller Republic of Korea army equipped only with rifles and light artillery. The South Korean army was unable to halt the heavily armored Soviet-built tanks. 3 days later, the North Koreans reached Seoul. The next day, the Han River bridges were blown up, trapping 40,000 South Korean troops north of the border. The South Korean Army Command could account for only 22,000 of the 98,000 men it carried on its rolls on June 25. In late June, the United States and the newly founded United Nations rightfully became heavily committed to the defense of South Korea. Meanwhile, British Royal Navy ships joined the U.S. fleet. Thereafter, Australia placed 2 ships and a squadron of Royal Air Force under U.S. control. The shock waves set off by this overt communist aggression stunned Washington and reverberated around the Western world. The U.S. forces were directed by President Harry Truman to take command. The Security Council of the United Nations met in emergency session on June 25 and adopted a resolution calling on North Korea to cease hostilities and withdraw its forces back to the 38th parallel. They refused. We withdrew, and we almost lost the war at the Pusan perimeter. But we turned it around and won at Pusan, Incheon, and Seoul. We crossed into North Korea. Then in October 1950, 300,000 Chinese communist soldiers crossed the Yalu River. They joined forces with the then nearly decimated North Korean army. Let me talk about the Battle of Changjin Reservoir, we call it Chosin, which really represents the war. 12 Chinese communist divisions of about 120,000 grouped in the Taebaek Mountains and attacked in November. The 1st Marine Division and the U.S. Army's 7th Division occupied positions around the reservoir. The temperature was 30 degrees below. On November 29, the Marine regiments were cut off and surrounded at Udamni. The second memorable day is December 6, when Marine General O.P. Smith told the British war correspondent, "Retreat, hell, we're just advancing in a different direction." 9 heavily defended roadblocks barred the road between Hagaru and Kodori, but Marine and Army troops swept down the road. 22 hours of agony later, they had covered the 9.5 miles, and on arrival, there were hundreds of wounded. On December 14, Marine and Army forces reached Hamgyong and marched straight down to the docks and boarded 28 Navy ships. They had suffered 10,500 casualties since landing at Wonsan. The evacuation at Hamnung was just remarkable. The Navy took out 105,000 troops, 17,500 vehicles, 350,000 tons of cargo, and 91,000 Korean refugees. The battles continued over the next 2 years across all of Korea. The battles were savage, and the casualties on both sides were appallingly high. Altogether, military casualties on both sides were estimated to be 2.4 million, and civilian casualties at another 2 million, bringing the total to 4.4 million women and children who were killed or wounded over these 3 years. Simply, it was a bloodbath, but we won. Now let me talk about the monument which we're now building to commemorate that war. Since the beginning, the Foundation's mission has been twofold: not only to build the war memorial, but to tell the world, and especially the youth, about its importance. The third memorable day which I want to talk about is early 2013, when we met the newly appointed Consul General here in San Francisco and asked for his support. Consul General Han helped us in raising the funds to build this beautiful monument. Of the $3.6 million raised, the Korean Americans and the Republic of Korea have given us 52% of our total. They have completely committed themselves and have been extremely generous in the success of our project. We salute them. It took us 6 years to raise the funds to build this monument. The fourth memorable day is June 13, 2013, when the Presidio Trust gave us the glorious site. When we were given this beautiful site at the Presidio, we were told that it was a gift conditioned on the fact that a tree planted there must remain there permanently. It had been planted by the Ohlone Indians 16 years before, and of course we agreed. 2 weeks ago, the Ohlone Indian chief stopped by our office to let us know that they wished to place a plaque at the tree to recognize a 19-year-old Ohlone Indian who gave his life in the early days of the Korean War. Incredible. Over the next 2 months, a 40-foot long, 10-foot high, curved wall of polished California black granite is rising on high ground in the Presidio of San Francisco, on the very same latitude as the landing at Incheon Harbor. Adorned with carved battle images, the structure is part of a permanent memorial designed to honor and preserve the United Nations servicemen and women from 21 countries who fought and gave their lives to protect South Korea's freedom during the Korean War. As planned, the memorial takes visitors along an arching path that opens onto a plaza set against trees and hedges. This is where the impressive granite wall stands, a composite of inscribed vertical panels that display, among other things, a map of the Korean Peninsula and a brief history of the war. An adjacent stairway leads down to a more intimate area for remembrance and reflection, where a low wall commemorates those who served. All of this sits on a promontory that offers visitors a sweeping view of the Golden Gate Bridge and the neighboring coastline. As the memorial founders have noted, it's a very fitting vista, since the San Francisco Bay was the embarkation point for so many who went off to fight in Korea. And it was the journey's end for so many who came home to their loved ones or to their final resting place. Just across the Pacific, the most prosperous and democratic Republic of Korea stands as its own testament to the important work being done by all of the memorial leaders and supporters as they continue to help the new Korean War Memorial take shape. The monument will have its grand opening on 1 August. Be assured, the Korean War is not a forgotten war. Rather, the Korean War was one of the most important events of the 20th century because for the first time, force was used to contain communism. Had North Korea succeeded in adding territory to the communist bloc of nations through a force of arms, they would have tried again and again. A degree of stability came upon the world because communist military aggression was defeated for the very first time in Korea. Today, North Korea remains a closed totalitarian state, widely regarded as a threat to world peace. And South Korea, on the other hand, is an economic miracle, one of America's largest trading partners and staunchest ally. She has become one of the world's strongest economies, for once in their long history able to act solely in their own national interest. They have produced an outstanding level of prosperity and the freedom to enjoy it. In deep appreciation, I would like to acknowledge and extend our gratitude to 3 ladies without whom we could not have achieved this beautiful monument. San Francisco Protocol Chair Charlotte Schultz, U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein, and past Presidio Chair Nancy Bechtel. The 5th memorable day is today, which is when we launch our effort to spread the word of how valuable it was to the world to stop communism and secure peace for South Korea. Our foundation is now involved in telling to American youth and to the world how valuable to democracy it was. We will speak before all youth groups at the high school, college, and graduate school levels. In conclusion, we join the USS San Francisco Monument here at Land's End in becoming another proud point to remember how San Francisco is recognized for the valor and glory which is now represented in these 2 wonderful memorials. Our mission is accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sergeant John Reid. I'd like to read a plaque that will be presented to Don. Presented to Sergeant Don F. Reid, USMC, Chair of Honor, USS San Francisco Memorial 2016, in recognition of exceptional service to the veterans of our country and for your dedication to the memories of those who bravely served aboard the USS San Francisco CA-38, May 29, 2016.
Oh, stand to the side, those facing so the people can take pictures of it. Here's your Kodak moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and Semper Fidelis.
Oh, yeah.